About a year ago, I got the Platinum Trophy for God of War Ragnarok. But then, at the 2023 Game Awards, they announced that a brand new free DLC called Valhalla was being added to the game. And of course, this included some brand new trophies to obtain, so I knew I had to return to get that sweet 100%. The DLC is an epilogue to the main story and introduces a fun, replayable adventure with new elements inspired by the roguelite genre. There are 12 new trophies for us to achieve, with most of them essentially being story trophies or making it to the end of Valhalla itself, with a couple of miscellaneous trophies thrown in. So without further ado, let's get into it. First things first though, I had to choose the difficulty, and as there are no difficulty related trophies, it didn't matter what I chose, so I ended up choosing the recommended one as I hadn't played this game in over a year, so I knew I was going to be rusty.
You're scared. It's okay.
The DLC starts off with Kratos and Mimir rowing a boat down a river in search of the entrance to Valhalla, as someone has mysteriously invited them to participate in order to help Kratos master thyself. As soon as the two arrive at the shore of Valhalla, Kratos is stripped of all the stuff that we earned in the base game and we are back to basics. After doing some light exploring, the two find the door to the entrance of Valhalla. And so this is where the gameplay loop begins. So you start off in the lower arenas here, where you have to fight your way through some weaker enemies whilst picking up chests in order to choose which path you want to take, which is pretty much which weapon you want to use for majority of your playthrough. And from there you move on to the next arena where you take out more enemies and then choose a chest where you can unlock runic attacks or upgrades to your base stats. And then disaster struck. Not only did I die, which I'm pretty sure is forced upon you, but my footage got corrupted, as you can see.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
So sorry for the bad footage here, but once you die, you reawake on the beach, where you are confronted by Freya and the Valkyrie Sigrun, who berate Kratos and Mimir for breaking Valhalla's rule, but allow him entrance. And this is where I got my first trophy invitation accepted. But luckily from there, I switched back to an actual recording software that works properly, and so I was able to continue on, where I was introduced to the mechanic where you can choose whichever shield and rage ability you want before going into Valhalla. And the Valkyrie Gunner also introduced me to mastery tasks, and these reward mastery seals which allow you to upgrade Kratos permanently. And the other Valkyrie, Io, introduced me to some more mastery tasks, and these one included using different runic attack glyphs, whereas Gunner introduced me to ones using different shields and rage abilities. From there, Freya and the Valkyries then sung a little ritual song in order to reopen the doors of Valhalla. From there, I was able to make my way back to where I was, and this time I was allowed to win. And essentially, once you clear an area of enemies, you go through the portal into the next realm. So the first one was Asgard, now I'm in Jotunheim, and some of these areas aren't just combat arenas, they're also areas where you can explore to open up more chests, and then they have diverging paths, which makes it the roguelite, so you can choose which reward you want to go for next. Often there is also the Tablet of Endeavor, which allows you to purchase temporary upgrades that you use on that run only. Eventually, after you've cleared out enough areas, you're taken back to a sanctuary where you have to use this sand teleportation thing here to move on to the upper areas of Valhalla. And the very first time doing this, Kratos is shown his old God of War throne from the Greek mythology games. And a mysterious voice speaks to Kratos before Kratos gets a headache, and then we are teleported back to the beach. So pretty much that was part of the story, and that was as far as Kratos could make it through Valhalla the first time, but of course now we have to go back multiple more times to make it even further. And back at the shore, I was also able to change my appearance for the first time, unlocking me this very easy trophy, Style Points, for equipping a cosmetic armor. Also at the shore, I was introduced to the labor marker, which just gives you new labors to complete, which of course gives you rewards to use to upgrade. And also the Tablet of Reflection was introduced, which is where you purchase permanent upgrades for Kratos. I then re-entered Valhalla and made my way back to Asgard, where I was greeted with this magnificent sight. Whoa, that looks sick. What? And that is where we must go next, so using the Ascending Sands, I can finally continue on into the next area of Valhalla. But in order to unlock the Ascending Sands, I first had to take out Valhalla's Chosen, and these pretty much act as a mini-boss or a tougher enemy. Once you've taken them out, you can continue. However, as soon as I stood through the Ascending Sands, I was met with another mini-boss. This time it was a proper mini-boss, in the form of Fisk, and throughout all your different playthroughs you will most likely fight a different mini-boss. There's quite a lot you can come up against, and I rarely had a repeat of the same mini-boss. But as soon as I defeated him, I moved through the portal into the next area where we were back in the throne room, and the mysterious voice was revealed to be the head of Helios. So Mimir had turned into the head of Helios. Well, pretty much Valhalla just uses fragments of Kratos' memories and uses that to form the world. That's why all the different realms appear, and of course people from his past appear as well. So from here on in, as soon as you get to the upper levels, Helios will be the one accompanying Kratos now and not Mimir, and we are now shown fragments of Greece, which is really awesome as we obviously haven't seen that in the new God of War games. Kratos then enters the Ascending Sands once again. We are then taken to a room which is a throwback to the old games, where apparently Kratos burned an Athenian soldier to a crisp in order to make his way past this room. And so Kratos plans to do the exact same with Helios' head, but not before taking out some enemies, where we introduce the brand new rage ability, the Blade of Olympus, which is an awesome throwback. And once past them, Kratos plans to burn Helios' head, but then he transforms back into Mimir, and of course he can't sacrifice Mimir, so he tries to break him out of the prison, and once he does, this happens. What is happening?
Do not panic. We will simply return to the gate.
I don't think so! I think you've broken how Valhalla works! Oh! I think this is it, brother!
What is happening right now?
Let's get you out of here! Sigrun! Love, you're burning! I'm not supposed to be here! Oh, Kari,
So Kratos not sacrificing Mimir breaks the rules of Valhalla, and pretty much they were about to die then and there and not obviously respawn back on the beach, but luckily Sigrun saves the day, but she does receive some pretty bad injuries. But it's all good though, because I got myself the next trophy, Dark Odyssey, for participating in the sacrifice. After that, I also noticed I was slowly getting rid of my rust, so I decided to up the difficulty to Show Me Courage, which isn't really that much of an improvement, but it's still better than the normal difficulty, and that is actually as high as I went, because not gonna lie, I died quite a bit after this. Despite upping the difficulty, my very next run I did manage to get back to the Ascending Sands once again, but this time it introduced us to the Gauntlet in this Greek area, as you have to take out 3 of Valhalla's Chosen, not just 1. This area always has the same layout, but you go to the different parts in order to open these portals which spawn in Valhalla's Chosen, and once you've taken them out you do get some rewards, but this reminded me a lot of the Niflheim area from the first game, except this is definitely a lot better and more improved. It's not as boring. Unfortunately though, on my second rift I actually did end up dying, so I had to return all the way to the start back at the shores of Valhalla. Back here, Freya also lets us know that Sigrun is healing from her injuries, and she's very cautious of us continuing in Valhalla, but she allows us as long as we don't break the rules. And so this is the gameplay loop. Once you're back at the shores, you go and speak to Eir and Gunnar, the other Valkyries, in order to get more mastery tasks, and then you also use your upgrades to make permanent upgrades. And essentially you want to be making sure that you're doing the labors and mastery tasks, as there is a trophy related, but it also helps you get rewards and level up a lot quicker. On my next run through, I didn't even make it past the first Valhalla Chosen, so at this point I was kind of wondering if I made a mistake upping the difficulty, but I decided to persevere on the same difficulty, as I realized that this is the whole point of this mode, is that you're meant to upgrade Kratos as you go, and you are meant to fail and get better. And so I made it back to the Greek area where I was able to take out my 3rd Chosen. Going back into the Ascending Sands, it took me back to this same room where I still had to make a sacrifice. And so Kratos, doing the noble thing, he sacrifices himself. And surprisingly, this actually works, as Kratos survives, and Mimir is also returned alongside him, not Helios. But here is where we get the big reveal, and the person who invited Kratos and Mimir to Valhalla was in fact Tyr himself. And this is really awesome, as in the base game Odin was impersonating Tyr, so we never really got to properly meet the real Tyr until the end of the game, but by then it was kind of too late. And the reason Tyr invited Kratos was to help him prepare to face his old self and become the new god of war in the Norse mythology. Playing up to this point, Kratos and Mimir discussing some dialogue that Freya asked Kratos to be the new god of war in the Norse mythology, but he was wary to say yes, as he still thinks he is not worthy after what he did in Greece. And so essentially you can pretty much sum it up as Tyr is going to be Kratos' therapist in order to get him ready to become the god of war. And of course, what's the best therapy for the god of war? It is to fight each other whilst talking about their issues. And this first boss fight against Tyr is really awesome, as he uses the Greek spear and shield. And after you get him to about half health, he retreats to attack you from range and sends in some enemies to do some of the damage. And whilst doing this, he talks to Kratos about some of his issues. And so once you take out those enemies, Tyr returns for a second phase where he is normally a lot stronger and does some different attack patterns. And unfortunately I was not ready for this, as I actually ended up dying on my first attempt at beating Tyr. But after making some permanent upgrades, I fought my way back to Tyr and I was able to take him out on my second attempt. Tyr yields and says that we may enter the door now. However, as Kratos opens the door, whatever he sees inside causes him to have another migraine. And along with that, achieving the trophy Blood, Sweat and Tear for battling Tyr. And so as we head back, Tyr tells us that we are not ready yet, but we will be as long as we continue to grind our way through this mode. And so another attempt begins. And pretty much from here on in, at the beginning of each attempt, Kratos is shown a memory from his past that he is guilty or ashamed of, and so essentially Tyr is going to act as his therapist and help him through these memories in order to accept that they happened and move on to become the better person. So for example, this first memory tackles his decision to make a deal with Ares. And so once again, you fight your way through the lower levels until you can use the Ascending Sands to make your way up to the upper levels, where first you have to take out the mini boss, and then from there you just got to make your way to the upper levels where the Greek area is. But on my way there, I actually got the trophy Wayfarer for visiting all 9 realms in Valhalla. So the final one I had to visit was Helheim, and this trophy is pretty much a guarantee, as eventually you'll visit all 9. And so once I made my way through Helheim and up to the Greek area, each time you have one of these quests where you tackle a memory, you always end up finding an item from Kratos' past, and it always gives you a trophy too. And so here I got the trophy Scry Me a River for reclaiming Kratos' Oath Stone. However, on this run I did end up dying without even making it to Tyr. On my next run, at the very start though, I did come across another item, which was the key. The key ended up being a throwback to the boat captain's key from one of the first games, and this was because Kratos killed him unnecessarily, so he has remorse about it. And this is related to getting a trophy where I have to find all 3, so this was the first of those 3. And luckily after that, on the same run, I managed to fight my way back to Tyr once again, and this time he actually had a different weapon, which I'm not actually too sure from where this weapon is from, but yeah, pretty much each time you fight him, he brings out a new weapon from a different mythology. And also I did manage to beat him, and this is where Kratos gets his first therapy lesson. And so Kratos learns the lesson of acceptance before getting another headache returning to the shore. And so the next memory to tackle was Kratos and his beheading of Helios. And then in the same run, I also got to fight against Modi, who was a boss in the 2018 game, and you also teleported to this arena here, which is where Mimir and Kratos met for the first time. And after that, I made my way back up to the Greek area, and this is where I picked up the Shield of Helios, which is the next item, but this one for some reason didn't give a trophy. In this same run, I ended up unlocking the Aegean Boat, which is a bonus arena where you can unlock some pretty useful abilities, and this is actually the first of 3 bonus arenas, with the second and third one being unlocked later on, and the third one actually counting as a trophy. But in order to unlock those, I had to keep beating Tyr some more, and in this run, I believe he's using scimitars, which is from the Egyptian mythology, which may be a hint at the next game. Unfortunately, Tyr was too much for me in this run, and unfortunately I died, meaning I had to head all the way back to the start again. So then on my next run, I actually ended up picking the key up again for a second time, and it spawns in the exact same place as last time in front of the mural. And then finally, after half an hour, I made it all the way back to Tyr, so close to killing him, literally no HP at all, and this happened.
No way.
Rebirth. Embrace the cycle.
Oh my god, bro.
So that was very heartbreaking, as I had made my way all the way to the end and was that close to beating Tyr. On the bright side though, on my next run, I went back to the exact same spot as before and found the third and final boat captain key, unlocking the trophy, you again. And once again, about half an hour later, I fought all the way back to Tyr, and I got him super low. This time I had a little bit more health and I was able to make him yield again. And once again, here is another therapy lesson where Kratos learns the importance of vigilance. And to make things even better, after I just made some progress, I got the trophy Understood the assignment for completing 9 mastery quests. Moving on to the next run though, the next memory that is being tackled is Kratos' memory of Pandora and her box. And so once again, I used the Ascending Sands to get up to the mini-boss area, where I actually took on the other brother, Magni, this time, which was again another cool throwback to 2018 game. And after beating him, I made my way up to the upper levels, where I picked up a statue of Pandora, which did in fact unlock me a trophy, No Kratos, No Scry, for reclaiming Pandora's statue. And so continuing on with the run, I ended up unlocking the second arena, the Desert of Lost Souls, but I ended up dying before I could even get there to try it out. Once again, going back in, I found a new collectible where the key used to be, which was Calliope's flute, obviously Kratos' daughter. Luckily there are no trophies related to collecting these. Continuing on, I managed to make it my way to the arena that I just unlocked, and in this one you had to defeat all the enemies in the timer up the top, and if you did, you got a better reward based on bronze, silver or gold levels. So these arenas were really helpful with upgrading Kratos temporarily in each run. However, there is a risk reward to these arenas, as they are harder, so if you die you have to restart. So after another half an hour of pain, I made my way all the way back to Tyr, but he did reveal that this was the last weapon he had to show me, making me assume that this was the last time I had to beat him, and this time he revealed that he had a katana, which is obviously from Japanese mythology. Of course though, for the final time fighting him, they just had to up the difficulty, so of course I did end up failing on my first attempt here. And so really here is my only issue with the DLC. Like, it is really fun going through all the different arenas, don't get me wrong, but after doing all that just to get to the boss and you die right at the very end, and you have to go back and do it all over again, and each run is like half an hour, it can be quite draining. Luckily though, on my very next attempt, I made my way all the way back to Tyr and was ready to take him out one final time.
No way.
Yes, unfortunately I did not complete it then and there, so I knew I had to go back to the start, but I knew this very next one was going to be the run.
Be ready.
Not a loss if you learn.
Okay, surely this next run was the one. But first though, before moving on to Tyr, I noticed that I had 13,000 fleeting echoes in this run. And so I remembered that there was a trophy for acquiring more than 15,000 fleeting echoes on a single attempt, so all I did was take on one more rift in order to get a little bit extra fleeting echoes to get the trophy.
Easy come, easy go.
And so with so many fleeting echoes, I was able to buy heaps of upgrades, and I knew this had to be the run.
Be ready.
No way, I'm done. I suck. I actually suck.
So as you can tell, I was getting pretty down in the dumps because this was taking me forever and I was so close to beating him every single time. But lucky for me, on the next run, this happened. Come on! Come on! Yes! Finally!
You did it?
Yes! Took way too long.
Nice. Brother?
I yield.
Stop, Kratos. I yield.
So yes, finally I defeated Tyr and learnt the final lesson of benevolence. And so Kratos is finally ready to confront whatever is through that door. And oh my god, once you're inside, it does not disappoint. You see a flashback of a younger Kratos from the Greek days in all his PS5 glory. And honestly, it's kind of hard to explain what happened in this scene. You should probably go play this for yourself or search up the full cutscene on YouTube. But Kratos has this great speech where he pretty much accepts what he did in the past, but he is now someone different and can move on to be better. And so Kratos takes the throne. And the credits roll on an amazing DLC. I can't believe it was free, and honestly they did so well with the story. It's such a great addition to Ragnarok. And once the credits are done rolling, Kratos makes his way out of Valhalla, doing the stance that is shown in the mural, as he is now ready to take on not the role of God of War, but the role as God of Hope. Master Valhalla and master thyself. And so the epilogue pretty much ends with Kratos accepting Freya's request to join her on her council as a god. As a reward, you also unlock Kratos' old clothing from the first couple of games, as well as the ability to change to classic Kratos, which looks awesome. And as a bonus, if you really wanted to, you can take these items and more into New Game Plus, along with the rage ability with the Blade of Olympus, so you could play through the whole of Ragnarok as young Kratos, which is pretty cool. Anyway, I of course still had one more trophy to obtain, so equipping the classic Kratos skin, I headed back to the upper levels of Greece, where I had to visit the third and final bonus arena, which was the Forum. So of course I had to fight whichever mini-boss came out of the rift at the Forum, and I actually ended up dying, but I still got the trophy, fight at the Forum. So luckily all you had to do was participate in a fight, didn't actually have to win, thank goodness for that. And that is officially the 100% for Valhalla complete. Just quickly, I'd like to say a massive thank you to those who watched this video and stuck around to the end. And thank you so much to everyone for watching the last video. It absolutely blew up. I didn't expect it to do that good. So thank you all so much for watching that video, liking, subscribing. Absolutely means the world to me. In that video, I showed that I had 1,409 subscribers at that time. And now when I'm editing this video, I have 1,749. This could be even more by the time you see this video, but I'd just like to say thank you to all my new subscribers, and if you're thinking about subscribing, I would greatly appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, and you get to keep up with all the content I post. And so with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.